Hello, I'm Liz and I'm the DBS Administrator for Oxfordshire Youth, and I'm going to talk about checking a DBS application form. So this is for somebody who works for an organisation who has recruited a member of staff for which a DBS has been requested, and your member of staff or your applicant has filled in the form, hopefully the middle 2 pages, and has then come to you carrying 3 pieces of personal identification, possibly something like a passport, a driving licence and a utilities bill. They're going to need to bring something that proves their identity plus something that proves their current address. And we produce an evidence checklist which I am happy to email out to you if that will help. So you've been given a form, you've got these identity documents, and you're wondering, what do I do next? So the purpose of the check is to make sure that the applicant hasn't missed out anything or hasn't made any obvious mistakes which would slow down the whole application process. And what you are going to do is just run through the whole form, make sure that every question that has a yellow label has been answered, and that if any sub-questions are requested, those have also been answered. So for example, if someone has said yes, they do have a national insurance number at question 20, they have also at question 21 given the national insurance number. Another common error one is at question 22, do you hold a valid UK driving licence? Quite often people will answer no to that, but then when they turn up with their identification documents, one of them will be a provisional driving licence. And then you look at the form and you change the no to a yes, because a provisional licence is a valid driving licence, and you put in their driving licence number, which then means that you can use it as a form of ID. So you have been given 3 pieces of documentation and this form. You've gone through, you've checked whether all the answers that should be filled in have been filled in. And now, for example, you're looking at a passport. Now, a passport is a great means of ID because it confirms sections 1 to 3 on the form. It gives you the full name of your applicant. It also gives you the answer to question 14, the date of birth. So you can check both of those against the passport, check that the passport is in date, that it's valid, and check that the number of the passport matches the number that they have put on the form. And if you've done all those and they all tally up, then you can put a cross in the registered body use only section A25 verified, because that way you're saying, yes, I've checked the passport. Now, you might also have got a driving licence to look at. And if that's the case, you want to check that it's a valid driving licence, that it's a UK one. Make sure that the number that is on the form matches the number on the driving licence. And if that's all good, then you can put a cross in the A23 verified box. So if you've got those 2 documents, you've managed to check off A1 to 3 verified, A14 verified, 23 and 25. Now, if somebody's given you, for example, a pay slip which may have their national insurance number on it, you could also check their national insurance number. But if they haven't got that, they haven't brought it, that's fine. It doesn't matter if somebody doesn't have a particular document and that box is not checked. You're only checking what you actually see. And it's not okay to check photocopies. You've actually got to hold the documents in your hand. They've got to be genuine. Now, you are going to need to check your applicant's current address. So they need to have brought in something that shows recently that address that they have put in section B. So it's no good having the driving licence again, because that might be several years old. It may have the correct address, but you have no way of knowing whether that's the current address. Now, on our evidence checklist, we have a list of the valid documents that you can use as a way of confirming an address. And they include things like a recent utility bill, your current council tax bill, a bank statement that's not more than 3 months old. Quite often people will say, but I do all of those things online and I don't have any written evidence of my address. And I know this can be difficult. Banks can be really helpful here. If you just go into a branch, they will print out a current statement that has your address on it. And if nothing else is available, that will quite often work. So if you've managed to check the current address, you can put a cross in the box on the second page. You also need to check that they have got 5 solid years of addresses on the form, and if they've had to go onto continuation sheets, you need to make sure that all the continuation sheets are filled in and that there aren't any gaps in the addresses. I should say the continuation sheets have an inviting little box on them for a signature, but that is for a registered counter signatory, and that's not you and that's not the applicant, that will be me in the end. So try to resist signing that lovely little box. So assuming now you've got 5 years of addresses and you're happy with that and the months and the years all tally up and there are no gaps, then you want to make sure that your applicant has answered question 55, that's either a yes or no, that they have signed in the box at the bottom and dated the application. Now, you are going to go onto the back page, because if you are the identity checker, your name is going to go in section 58. So just pop your name in there and answer 59, which says, have you established the true identity of the applicant by examining a range of documents as set out in DBS guidance? That's a straightforward yes or no, but it's really important that that's answered, otherwise DBS will write to me and query it. Now, section X, I don't know why line 60 is blank and you must not use it. It's a pity because it would be a useful space, but there we are, we mustn't use it. Line 61 is really important. It's the position the applicant has applied for. It's not enough just to put volunteer here, because what we want to do is tally up the position that this application is about with the level of DBS check that you are asking for. So, for example, a volunteer youth worker would indicate that an appropriate level of DBS check might be an enhanced check. So be as specific as you can. Then you need to know whether this is for the child workforce or the adult workforce. Now, for most, this is going to be a straightforward one. It's the child workforce. So that means you're working with under 18s. Now, the fact that you have some people of 18 or over coming to your organisation doesn't mean that you need an adult workforce check. What that is referring to is whether you are carrying out regulated activities with your members. And regulated activities mean specific things like help with personal care, help with feeding somebody. It also includes things like counselling or financial advice. But if you want to know more, you can just Google DBS regulated activities and there is plenty of information about those. So the fact that you have 18 and over does not mean that you need to put adult workforce. You then put your organisation name and the level of DBS check that you are requesting. Now, an enhanced check is a high level of check. That means that quite intrusive checks are going to be made into somebody's background. So you only ask for an enhanced check if you're certain that you need it. So if your applicant is going to be responsible for looking after young people, then you certainly need an enhanced check. But if they're just going to be a casual helper, a volunteer who comes and puts out chairs or makes refreshments, then probably a standard check will be perfectly adequate. In the end, this is all about protecting vulnerable people. So you need to think, will this applicant have an opportunity to abuse or do any harm to the people for whom we work? And if the answer is, well, no, not really, they're always going to be supervised, then a standard check is fine. But if the answer is, well, yes, because they're going to be responsible, then an enhanced check would be appropriate. Question 64 then is an important one. Are you entitled to know whether the applicant is barred from working with children? This is going to only refer to an enhanced check. And again, it's not something that you would do lightly, because this implies quite a level of intrusion into somebody's background. However, if you've got a youth worker that you're recruiting, then yes, you do need to know whether they are barred from working with children. So the answer would be yes. If it's, say, an office volunteer, then no, probably not, unless they are working with confidential information. So if they've got access to names, phone numbers and addresses, then quite possibly yes, you would need to know whether they're barred from working with children. Question 65. Are you entitled to know whether the applicant is barred from working with adults? Again, this is only if they are going to be doing a regulated activity with people who are 18 or over. So if someone is going to be counselling adults, or if they're going to be doing personal care with adults or assisting them with toileting, for example, then yes, that would be the answer. But otherwise, no, the answer is no there. Question 66 also has to be answered, so hopefully you're not going to be involving that person working at their home address, and the answer would be no. But for a few people, the answer would be yes, so you must answer that. We're nearly home and dry now. So question 67, you've just got to state whether it's a new post holder, an existing post holder, or for an existing post holder who's being rechecked. So that's straightforward, just one of those. And 68, the answer is yes if it's a volunteer and no if it's a paid member of staff. Now there's a really tempting, lovely white box for a signature at the bottom of the form. Resist the temptation to sign it, because that is for a registered person, the counter-signatory who's registered with DBS, and that will be me, not you. So although it's really tempting and you feel as though once you've checked all of this you ought to sign, actually you don't need to. So resist that and you just fill in sections W and X and leave all of section Y blank. And if you've got any more questions, contact me and I'll be very happy to have a discussion with you. Thanks.